Stauna read up. I already know she got. I already know she got her glass ready. Oh, see, right on cue. I said I already know you have to re up with the glass. You know what I'm saying? So not to be outdone. Thank you. Appreciate you.
I mean, um,
Ashy,
locked and loaded.
Ashy,
Wow.
the classy.
Wait,
Ashy, the classy. You know what I'm saying?
I need to
Nah.
like join in with that. One of those.
Best of both worlds, right there, man.
You know, I don't have a red
Nah, this
cup.
conversation. This conversation is too good. Nah, you too classy for the red cup. It's all right. Nah, I already know. Please, please, it's all good. But yeah, so let's pick up where we kind of left off. So you were saying,
Je ne sais pas. Sorry. We have conversations. No, I can't recall exactly where we left off, to be quite frank with you.
we was talking about a lot of things. We talked about salaries.
I think
You know, and we was we went through negotiating salaries, and how we have to kind of, you know, get people to get their confidence back. Like when I worked in nonprofit, you know, it's like I was saying, a big part of my job, you know, was to teach them how to get jobs, right? But before they can even think about processing about getting a job, they had to break through a lot of barriers mentally and emotionally first. So a lot of my curriculum was confidence building, was breaking down barriers, was opening up,
yeah.
because because to go out into the world and say, oh, you know what, I need to be paid $70,000. That was beyond them. They were just like, yo, I'm just trying to feed my girl. I'm just trying to feed my boy. I'm going through divorce. I'm going through just many different things. I'm on welfare, just different things like that. Just that they couldn't get past. So their value, so what they felt about themselves showed in what they asked for in salary.
Yeah, and
You know,
that's
it's crazy.
an important piece to learn. And I think I've continued, much like yourself, I've done job readiness workshops and things of that
Mm-hmm.
nature. And there is definitely a psychology to all of this, right?
Yes.
The psychology of winning, the psychology of thinking of yourself in a different way. But I think even removing that, as I've mentioned a few times prior, that really getting clear about the value of that particular role, right? And it's the
Yes.
assumption that I can do this work, and this work actually comes with a pay that looks like X.
Yes.
But even just being confident that I can do this work, I'm
Mm-hmm.
able, and I can, and I will. I am.
So if you can,
Mhm.
talk to them about the three things for the people that might have missed it or just are just coming on to the 8 o'clock slot.
Yep.
The three things that you look for when negotiating a salary, and then we can move forward.
The three things I look for, or the three things.
Yeah, because you mentioned that there were the three thresholds that you go by.
Yeah. One, I think you have to be clear on what you want, right? And
Mm-hmm.
two, you have to set a standard for what you can live with, right?
Mm-hmm.
One, when you understand these jobs pay this amount of money, here's what I could live with, and then here's what I'd like to receive. But then
Right.
you have here's what I'd love. Here's what makes you really
Right.
happy. I'd be happy to join if I just got this, right? And
Yeah.
that might look like I could live with 50 grand, right, a year as a salary. I'd really like 60, but man, would I love 70 or 70.
Mm-hmm.
And really being able to speak to that which you love. And so even when you're filling those applications, it's asking that question, go with that number. And as mentioned prior, for those who missed it, it's really okay to sit here and say, I'd love X, I love this. However, my fervor to work here is to do great work. And so if everything lines up, I'm open to negotiation. You're not stuck at that 75, right? So you want to
Right.
have wiggle room so that companies are understanding that you're open to the consideration and it's not just a numbers game. Because
Mm-hmm.
we don't really like that idea that you're just coming for a number, right? We want to know you
Right.
more than just that. The experience, the overall engagement of the employee is huge. Employee engagement surveys happen everywhere all the time. Really want to
Mm-hmm.
understand the person's aligned to the company.
Mm-hmm.
So really being able to speak to that and say, but go in knowing what you want, understanding the
Mm-hmm.
value of the role that you're looking
Mm-hmm.
for. Be clear
Mm-hmm.
about your three numbers: what you live with, what you like, and what you love, and go for
Mm-hmm.
it. Right? But step with your
And
confidence. Step with your confidence.
and people take her advice because she getting all the bags. She getting all the bags. I'm just saying, I ain't gonna put nobody business out there on the street, but she getting all the bags. So please take her advice. She getting all the bags that you can think of.
I'm saying I've been blessed and highly highly favored, and I am very appreciative of all.
Yeah, that's what you want to call it, but you getting all the bags. So please take her advice. So my brother said, change your resume to show results as opposed to tasks. Results are more valuable than tasks as you progress. Ron, what up, Ron?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
great point. I think, one, not many people have an understanding or an understanding, rather, of the separation between that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to demonstrate in your resume where you have delivered, what you have done, what you've accomplished, rather than I took the trash out, right? And I'm just making this up, obviously. Rather than I took the trash out, I successfully ensured that the space was, clean and ready for business every day. And I did so in attracting new clients into the space. So being able to speak in a way that shares that you are results driven, solution minded, essential. That goes back again to what I spoke to as far as the proactive nature of things, the soft skills that we're often looking for, and not what you have coming in. Listen, many people have degrees. A lot of people I sat with in my master's courses, I didn't understand how they got into school, but that's a whole nother story. A lot of people just don't have that fervor. I used to share this with the kids and in job readiness spaces, right, where you write the word hard work, all the different pieces that they're equal to A to B, C, D, E, F, G, don't really work. They get you half the way, a quarter, almost all the way.
Right.
Like your attitude, how you show up to work every day. A company will deal with a person with a great attitude who's not working their best, rather than the person who might be doing really well, but their attitude really sucks. Nobody wants to work with that person.
Yes.
And we'll get into that
100%.
emotional intelligence piece. But really super important that when your resume speaks, it demonstrates how you're able to drive results for the business. They want to understand how are you going to be a partner in ensuring the success that we have here. I don't just need you to do a task, right? We need you to think as an owner. So when you show up as an owner, that this is important to me to get this accomplished. And so I hear so much people are like, well, I'm not doing all this for them, etc. Wait, that might hinge on the fact that you did not appropriately come in asking for what you deserve. So you feel like you're getting the return on that investment that you made. So again, it's rethinking that piece a little bit and to say, go in and ask for what you deserve. And when you get in there, demonstrate that you drive results. That your resume should speak to that, but your attitude and your actions should speak to that. Identify gaps, right? Gap analysis is big. I live on that. My whole life, this is what's about. Where are we now? Where are we trying to get to be? And how can I bridge that gap and create that change? What is the gap that you don't identify? And that can happen in any role. But really being able to identify the essential functions that they're asking for in that particular job and how can you deliver on that will be a difference maker. So ensure that your resume speaks to that. And we didn't get this question, but I've had this a lot as far as cover letters, right? So I want to hear your input on that, Terrence, because I can share with you. I am ready for cover letter if anybody asks or wants it, but that hasn't happened. References, we have this thing, you don't put references, you don't put available in your request anymore.
Right.
I have, for my past, I don't even know, 2 or 3 jobs, no one has called a reference, even asked for a reference. And some places still do, but I'm just saying, be prepared with the information, but the relevance of it is changing over time, but always be prepared in the event.
Right. And just stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Be prepared. Have your cover letters ready. You know what I'm saying? Because, cover letters to me are a pastime, but you never know. And you always want to be very prepared. And the one thing is, people might ask you for a reference, right? And this happened to me on interviews. Oh, hey, do you have references to present, right? And boom, guess what? Pulled it out. Hey, here you go. The worst thing you can do is, hold on, man. Let me get my phone. I got it somewhere in my phone, dog.
And sure that they know, right? Your references better know that they are a reference for you. Because I've had that happen, but I'm quick on my feet, so I'm like, okay, yes, because these are usually people that I'm okay with doing. Yeah. But ensure that your references know that. But a lot of places don't really do that double check. They do the background checks.
Right.
People say that.
No, but sometimes people, even if they don't call, they're just looking to see if you're prepared.
Well, yeah.
And even if they don't call the references, they're just like, see, he's not even prepared.
Have it in your back pocket. Yeah.
Always. And it's like, it's like as long as you have it within your portfolio, you hand the resume, as long as you have your references with you. So even if they ask, then they go, oh, well, this young man is ready because out of all the people that they're interviewing, you could be the only one that was prepared, and that's what's going to be the only thing that's going to set you apart from that other person.
Yeah. So if I could just
So
say, right, make sure one, your resume should always be up to date.
always,
Started this goal
100%.
3 months ago. I've been a little tardy in my party, but that will be fixed shortly because, anyways, I won't go into that. But that will be fixed shortly. Have your resume up to date. Have a person look at it. If you're unclear about what you should put on there, like I said, do a brain dump. Just throw everything that you have any skill or experience in. Doesn't have to be related to an actual job. Just think about that. You know, reach out to people that you know who could be helpful. They don't have to be in HR. It could have been people who just, they've been through different jobs. They may have some keen understanding. If you have the funds enough, you could invest in actually reaching to a person and paying for some help to get that done. But ensure that you have a really good resume, too, if you need it, etc. And ensure that it speaks well of you. It's branding yourself, and it's your first marker in the door. I don't know anything about you. All I have is this paper saying a few things. So ensure that that's really well. Know that when you're not getting called, it's not necessarily that you're not good enough. Apply to varying different jobs. Don't do just 1-2 jobs a day or a week. Use different platforms. Use your network and your resources. Speak to people. Get to understand if they know about open positions. Search the websites of the companies that you want to be aligned with. Be deliberate in your task. Know what you want, know what you need, and go out there and get it because it's waiting for you to receive it. It's out there, waiting for you. Go out there and get it. It's not as hard as it often sounds.
It's so true. And I always say, listen, your resume could be immaculate and you could have the experience and the education, but you have to be the one to go in there and tell your story.
Yes.
I can't tell it for you as a recruiter. I can't do it for you. And it's very important that you know how to tell your own story.
Yeah. So
and tell it well.
I think it's good that they want that over. Yes, we do want LinkedIn.
100%. Yo, a LinkedIn should be mandatory. Everybody needs to have a LinkedIn and use it.
It almost is. So I want to talk a little about recruiting and the interview process. I'm often teaching managers how to interview. A lot of managers are not good about that. They don't know how to. You'll find that often, if not always. I've gone into HR interviews myself and had to interview the person because they couldn't interview me. But when you go in, a lot of recruiters use what we call STAR, right? It's a situation, the task. So if you go in and you're speaking to the STAR in the first place, it really is an opportunity to demonstrate that you're very clear on what you did and how you did it. Oftentimes they'll ask questions specific to STAR to you. So if you're not familiar with the STAR method, it's a manner in which we interview to ask you to describe a situation, right? Speak about specific tasks that you took to accomplish, what you needed to, what actions you took, and then what was the result. They usually try to phrase it in different questions, or some people just come out and say it. But a lot of recruiters use the STAR method to interview. A lot of managers who don't know much else of what to say when they're doing behavioral interviews, etc., will use STAR. So you can look it up. It's situation, it's task, it's actions, and it's results. So when you're in an interview answering questions, just come in prepared to speak about a situation, speak about the tasks that you took, speak about the actions that you embarked on, and what the result was. And right away, you've answered the questions that they would have for you, and that's already impressive. So if you're not familiar with STAR, look it up. But really, really
yes.
And that's
a lot of our recruiters, are using that exact method, and especially in companies like Google, especially Facebook, and things like that. So a question from Ron. Ron said, "What advice would you give to battling against the algorithms of job-seeking sites such as Indeed and increasing your probability of actually getting your resume viewed?"
The algorithm of the sites. So if you're talking about just having your resume on the site and waiting for someone to reach out to you, I would say that's the best way to go about things. It does happen. It may not give you the quality of roles that you're looking for. And that's why I think it's essential, just as you had shared prior, that you go out there and actively look for roles that you want to align yourself with. I would not really use algorithms at all. In fact, I've been in companies where they started using algorithms, and again, garbage in, garbage out, right? These people are still looking at the issues that those bring, like they're biased. There are a lot of biases in there because they're looking at what you used before. If you're a company that's trended and you've not hired a lot of blacks or females, the information in the system is geared towards that. And so it's looking for that same repetition. So I would say make the effort in looking directly for roles that you apply for, and not really relying on an algorithm to align you to a particular job.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm not sure he was saying relying on it, but he was saying battling against the algorithms.
You can't fight the algorithm.
You really, I mean, truth. You got me?
Yes, I got you.
You got me?
Yep. You went out for a second there, but
you get me?
Back. Yes, I can.
I can't hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
I'm
gonna go.
But
with
you can hear me
good,
right? I can't hear you.
Right? You doing? You doing it, Teddy?
Hello?
You can hear me or no? Oh, okay.
I lost you.
So you hear us both. I hear you, Terrence. You can't hear me, but they hear us.
Hold on one sec. Sorry.
That's what happens when you get these earpieces, man.
Yeah, I know. Oh, now I hear you. Okay.
Okay, good.
My fault. You good now?
I've been good.
Yeah. All right, cool. So let's transition into positioning yourself for promotion.
Daddy. No, okay, sorry. Yeah, let's talk about that.
All right, cool. All right. So a lot of times, like when it comes to promotion and asking for raises, right? What do you think would be the best process for that? Because now that becomes another problem where you don't want to have that conversation with your manager, because it's like, all right, so I know we get this annual raise, we get this annual raise that I feel like, I've done the work. I feel like, I've paid my dues, and we still getting these raises that's not really for me, So how would you? So what would be your advice to navigating those conversations?
So I do those all the time, and I'll say a few things. Let's first demystify a couple different pieces, right? Before you even going to have that conversation. Beyond the fact of getting clear about how your organization pays, getting clear about that, a couple things you have to ask. When I share with people often is this. Often enough, the increase that you get at work is often a standard of living increase. It's a baseline number. It's related back to the inflation of the year. Usually inflation is like 1.7, 1.9. The raise is like 2.0. Some people 2.5, right? In addition to that, for every role, there's a range of pay. And for people at the top end of the pay, I've had to say to them, you're not going to see any really increase. There's people who are at the bottom, they might see an increase. But often enough, the increase is not really hinging on your performance. It's really just the standard of living increase standard, right? That they have discretion in giving. Managers oftentimes have discretion. So that's one. You may not see a huge increase in a raise. You may see in a promotion, not so much a raise. In some places, it's not a standard of increase. It's a merit increase. And even when it's a merit, there's still a standard. Right? In the corporation I'm with now, it's a merit increase, but it's a base standard of 3%. Some people might get a little bit more, some people a little less. So you're not going to see huge traction in that way, generally, if you're just looking for a raise. So first, understanding that separation. If you're in a company that's a pay-for-performance company where they pay a bonus is more so tied to your performance, right? And then you need to understand how they determine bonus. Sometimes in certain companies, it's a discretionary bonus. There's no real true rhyme or reason. There's some, but there's not a lot. There's just, it's kind of in the air to a point. Negotiate your raise. A lot of times also, people wait till they have the conversation of here's what your raise is to say, I'm not happy about that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry, it's already happened. If you are upset with change, it's because the change already occurred. So I say all the time, did you speak to your manager throughout the year? Oh, well, they never had a meeting with me. You're an adult. This is no longer the industrial age where you have to wait for a person for a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Proactively say, I would like to understand how I'm performing and where I stand today. In effort to not be surprised at the end of the year, I want to know what I could do differently. Success for me looks like X. Success looks like at the end of the year getting a raise that looks like this. Make very
Mm-hmm.
clear your intentions. People are often afraid to say that to managers because they're afraid they're going to get fired, etc. Let me say this to you. There are a lot of laws and regulations as to why we can't just fire people. We don't just fire. We have to have real cause for it.
Facts.
If
That's so
every
true.
place is you have a right to work, that's the state that we're in. But even with the right to work, there's so many different regulations as to why you just don't fire a person, right? For very
Right.
reasons. So feel very strongly when you're having that check-in with your manager, and if your manager's not having to check in with you quarterly, you call for that check-in. Say, haven't spoken in a while,
Mm-hmm.
just want to touch base and see how I'm doing, if that's aligned to that. Seeing that I am accomplishing my goals. Is there something else I should be thinking about? So really having those things proactively, making it very clear, right? Because I have managers who have great performing people who at the end say, I had the conversation, I thought it was going to be great, but they were so pissed off, I didn't realize they wanted more. Can we do something now? And I'm like, ship has already sailed, right? So get in front of them. Get in front of your manager. Make it clear your expectations. I really think I deserve more, and here's why. And make a business case for why you deserve more, not just because I am nice and you should like me and you like me a lot. No, what is your business reason? Here's how I add value. We had to do 10 things. I did 15. And here's how well I did them. I saved the company money this way. Really present some business reasons to justify that and make that clear when you're looking to get a raise. And similarly for when you're looking for a promotion, you want to get clear about what do you need to do to be promoted.
Right.
Every place is different. Some places have very rigid rules as far as how that works. And some places kind of loosey-goosey where it kind of depends on your manager. So really get clear about this is a lot of this is just really so dependent on that conversation and that information that you share with that manager. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they take it up or not. And if you find your manager is not taking you seriously or taking it to the next step, have a skip level conversation. Eventually reach out. Just make it very clear, just want to touch base with you about how things are working at the company, things that I've seen, and then in that conversation share what you'd like to see. But often, if not always, I am sitting with people who are disgruntled or upset because they didn't make their expectations clear. And that's in life.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do a better job of communicating what we want and how we want it and why. So for raises, for promotions, all of those things being, get clear about what it is at that particular organization and how you can sit there and attend to it. But it's not just going to happen. I mean, it sometimes does, infrequent.
Right. So, I saw a comment said, DJ Stretch said, the manager says, do this / take this and I'll get you more. I do it and then nothing but more workload.
So let me say this. Often enough, managers tell people these stories because they're afraid of having difficult conversations. Your manager may not always be the person who is the decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
Often enough. In certain organizations, that's at the very granular level. In a lot of organizations, it isn't. So get very clear about, okay, what are the steps that I need to take? And when you get that information from your manager that says you need to do X, Y, and Z to get the raise that you're asking for, because you can't just say a raise, they'll give you a raise, right? You don't want to be ambiguous.
Get you a raise, yep.
Send that email. Thank you for meeting with me. Really appreciate the time. Just recapping what you shared. I understand that I have to do these things to achieve this thing. That way, when it comes to the end of the year and that's not what happens and it's not satisfied, you have something to walk in with, whether it be to the HR department or to the senior leadership, right? That you have some clear information stating that if you executed on these items, you would receive X. So really, CYA works here every single time, because often when people come and speak to this, I'm like, I don't have anything supporting this. And I'm speaking to the manager, like, no, well, I said that, but I said it like this. Well, I said, if I did this, I could possibly try to see if. But the manager really says to the person, yeah, I'm going to do this for you. They don't always have that information. One, the decisions for how we're funded, that usually happens at a very high finance level. And they're left
100%.
with a certain amount of money and trying to figure out how to disseminate it. So imagine if everybody's going asking the same thing to keep you happy and, you know, feeling good, they kind of just say what they'd like. So a lot of the issues that we find in corporations sit with our management, where they're not appropriately having the challenging conversations with you and being clear about what your experience is.
Powerful. Phew. I hope y'all was taking notes on that one, 100%. So, in speaking about managing a manager's personality, sometimes, let's be honest, you know, manager's personality, it may not be that great. It might be a little difficult, you know. Like for me personally, you know, I had a manager before who, man, she would cut me off every time I open my mouth, and you know, it pissed me off. You know, I'm not gonna lie to you, because every time I go talk, she would just up. So, and I realized that she would do that. It wasn't a personal thing. Like she would do that to everybody, but nobody would say a word. And I'm like, all right. So what I did was I pulled her into the room. I pulled her into a room. I said, listen, I said, one thing I noticed about, you know, when I speak, I said, you cut me off immediately. You don't let me get what I have to say out. I said, you know, as a human being, as you know, and as just an employee, that doesn't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, you know I do that. I'm sorry. She goes, you know, it's habit. She goes, it's not personal. I said, I know it's not personal. That's why I'm having this conversation with you like this. I said, but listen, I said, that has to change. I said, because it's uncomfortable for me to try to have a conversation with you or dialogue with you, and you keep cutting me off. I said, so we have to come up with a way that you have to not do that, or at least not do that so much to me. I said, especially to me, I said, because it's really making me uncomfortable, and I said, I want to have a great working relationship with you. I said, so how can we come up with a way that won't happen? And she said, oh, you know what? I have an idea. And now her mind starts to think, and she's like, you know what? If you hear me do that, she said, just put a finger up. Yeah. I was like, put a finger up. And she was like, that way I know that I'm doing it. She goes, I've been doing it so long. She goes, I even do it to my family. She goes, I've been doing it so long. That's just me. She said, but I recognize as a leader, I can't do that. I can't do that because it's going to make good employees like yourself uncomfortable. Yeah. So I was just like, all right, you know what? Perfect. So now we started doing that. And, you know, of course, she is who she is. So she does it, you know, so she did it a little bit more, but she did it a lot less. And she brought me aside after that. And she goes, you know, I really appreciate you bringing this to my attention because nobody else really did. And it's something that I really did need to fix. So I had to really get an understanding of her, and she had to really get an understanding of me. And I had to try to manage her personality too, because, you know, she wasn't going to change 100%. But just me bringing it to her attention to just let her know that was something that was just not okay. And it made me uncomfortable. But I went to her respectfully. That's one. And privately.
That's two.
And even though she would cut me off in public, I went to her privately because I said, she may not even realize that she's doing this. And lo and behold, she didn't even know. Like she knew, but she said, I didn't know that I was doing it so much to you and to everybody else. You know what I'm saying? So it's just really learning as a manager has to learn their employees' personalities. You have to learn how to manage your manager's personality too. So, you know, I say all that to ask you, like, what do you have any thoughts about that?
So a lot. I think that's a gift to have had a manager who was so willing and open to receive. A few things. I think that there are several different things that we employ to understand our style of how we work, how we communicate, how we receive information. And understanding your manager's style might be essential to your success, right? I think you were gifted in having a manager who was open to receiving information and feedback. I tell my team,
right.
just failure without feedback. So I'm constantly asking for feedback. What can I do better? I think the
Yep.
separation between manager and leader. They're not wanting the same, but I require that my managers be leaders, right? They're not one the same. And understanding as a manager, I'm here to remove roadblocks. I'm here to create space. I'm here to ensure that you have all the tools you need for your success. And many managers and unfortunate, I guess you could say, opportunities of having managers who were very supportive. And I had one was a Karen, a literal Karen, as they coined today. But yeah, I did have to sit with that for a while and navigating with a person who is intentionally undermining or doing things in your way. And even after approaching respectfully and all the other pieces, still undermining you, I think that's where the challenge comes. So I don't know how many people here are dealing with or have dealt with difficult managers where this person is really at the helm of your raise, your promotion, your career growth in a company. And we know that statistics show that 80% of people leave organizations because of management. They don't necessarily tell you that, right? Because when they send the information, resignation, they're like, oh, career opportunity, I got a better job, more money. But often when you get under that, it's management more often than not. And so how do you navigate through that space when you're dealing with a challenging personality? You had the experience where you had a person who you were bright enough to offer them the empathy. And I think you start there, right? With offering the empathy that the person is operating from the best place they know how, and maybe just not being the awareness of how they're being received. And that happens often. To really having that conversation, engaging to see if they're understanding and how they respond to that. I had one, it wasn't a manager, it was a colleague of mine where it was, we do the air thing. Whenever it was like, speak up more in meetings. So, you're not doing that, just do this. And so we had that as our thing to ensure that we were engaged. But I think that's a great example. What happens when you go in and speak to this manager, as you did, and that person is, what are you talking about? Well, I do this because I know, and so I'll give you opportunity to speak when it makes sense for you to speak, and then shut you down completely all the time. What do you do then? What happens when you're in that difficult space with that person? And I think that's where the big questions come. When you have a manager who's not working for you because they're not looking for your growth, they're not interested in your career development, not looking to showcase your talents, right? They take credit for your work. Seen that happen. I've suffered through some of that. How do you gauge that, right? So thinking through an example of where a person's taking credit for your work. This is where you got to get creative. So it was a unique opportunity to, one, never let them feel left out. Really letting them feel like they're engaged. And so I would do things like I would share this with the person, say, hey, thought about this great thing to do, and here's how we could do this. Want to share it with you, and I plan on sharing this with One Level Up, right? Because I shared that with you, and I'm telling you I'm going to take it a level up. Just not sure to do this, etc. And that's what I would do. So I would share it there, so she had it, right? But I also said that I was going to be speaking to her, sharing it one level up, and I would do that. And that's when I became even clearer that a lot of the information I was sharing before was not being credited to me in that way. And that person kind of got that hint. So there's ways around it. There's ways to appropriately address things in the chain without making that person feel slighted, where you do it professionally. Understanding your growth. So even in a case like yours where this person's cutting you off, and having that opportunity to say to them in the back, like, hey, I just wanted to call this to your attention. I realized that oftentimes when we're in meetings and I'm trying to share because I really have something to say, that you're cutting me off. And I know you have a great knowledge base, but I'd really like the opportunity to share some of what I've learned. I've learned so much from you. I've gotten to understand so much from you. I really want to showcase the talent, our team success. I really want to highlight just how much you've helped me grow in this role. And sometimes I just don't feel I have the opportunity to do that. And I find it's always great when you're giving that person praise. They tend to kind of like, oh, okay, to a point, right? To a point. And sometimes there and still you may have people who are just not there for your growth. And when you find that there's really no opportunity and all you're facing is roadblocks from this individual, you have to get from under that. You just have to. Because if you have a person who's really in your way and making every effort to step in front of you, you have to find a different role. You have to find a person that can support that growth. And it's on you. It's your career. It's your life. The onus is on you to step out and create that and find that. And that doesn't have to always be external. That could be internal. Looking for internal opportunities, right, that may exist. And speaking to other people within the group to understand that. There's always opportunity to speak confidentially to ER or the HR team as well. But it's not always, unfortunately, a great opportunity where a manager is open to. Or you're dealing with a micromanager and it's driving you crazy.
Right. Oh, I hate those. My brother said networking and mentorship with other stakeholders within the organizations are important, and that's helped him out in that situation before too.
Yeah, you brought up a great point. So even in networking with mentors, the mentor is very different than the sponsor. So even being clear about that, giving me the opportunity just to speak on that for a few. A mentor is a person who you're going to share some of your development opportunities with. So if you've ever thought about SWOT, right, to do an analysis of your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, like really think about what those things are. You're sharing that with your mentor so that they can help you identify those things if you haven't, and help you develop and grow better in those ways. And so they're not always the persons to help propel you into the next job. For the reason, because they're like, oh, this person needs to grow, but let me lend you. Your sponsor, that's the person who is going to call your names in rooms where you're not. That's the person who you need them to see the highlights of you. And so being able to successfully understand the separation of those two is how you can engage and better assess on how to use that relationship to help propel you forward. But yes, mentors in your organization, even external, and sponsors are really going to be great for your growth and getting out of some of those situations.
DJ Stress said, manager took credit, found out from people in meetings, but he couldn't explain it right. So he invited me into the next meeting, and I corrected everything and showcased that was the resource. I mean, that's amazing.
That's the example, and that's where that highlights that. There's some people who think just having the information is they weaponize information.
Yes.
And I speak to that for people who are managers and who are employees. I've encountered that too, where they weaponize information. Like, well, I know this and you don't. And really being able to understand how to make all of these pieces work for you to help propel your success is going to be essential. Navigating through the corporate arena or just jobs really is not necessarily the easiest thing. And some of it takes, some learning. And that's where the mentorship and advisement really just comes into play. But definitely align yourself to great people so you can see that. Because I think in DJ Stress's example, had he not had people in that space who really, went to bat for him or thought about him, being able to step in and do that, essential to having them understand his platform.
And the one thing that I want to call out, I didn't get a chance to call it out in the first hour, is even after you interview and follow up with the person that you interviewed with.
Yes.
Send emails, create that dialogue.
I send cards. I do the handwritten cards to
yes,
that I
you do.
With. I send that in.
Yes.
It's very different. I may follow up with an email just quickly overnight.
Just make be sure.
In addition to that, I send a card. I usually get a whole note about, oh, I received this beautiful card from you. We don't get those things anymore. So always try to do or find some way to differentiate, right?
I mean, we already know there's not many people like you, so I mean, we already know what it is. But just definitely, make sure that you have that point of contact, and you keep up with that manager or that recruiter, so that you're always in the front of the mind right here. You know what I'm saying? So that's just something that I definitely wanted to point out, and also knowing how to take rejection. Oh, yeah. And because being in this field, we can't take everybody, and we found some incredible people, but there's only 1 or 2 jobs, right? So, knowing how to take that rejection, because I've gotten some emails back that were just kind of wild and crazy. I don't need this job anyway. And you know, just stuff like that, right? And
I've had people
it's just I've actually reached back out to people that I thought were amazing, and just by how they took the rejection the first time when I had a new job opening, I reached out to them and said, "Hey, listen, you know what? It didn't work out the first time, but I think you'd be amazing for this particular role. Let's talk about it, and maybe we can get you an interview with this manager." I've personally done that, and I know hiring managers have done that. Um, just just by your reply from the rejection, you know, I've gotten some amazing replies and some not so amazing of replies. Um, and so a lot of times that goes a long way as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I say to people, put yourself in a position to say no, right? I heard that
yep,
some years ago where, um, in my most recent experience, as I was migrating to this company from JP Morgan, I had 3 or 4 offers, and it was like fighting through my head trying to figure out which one I was going to choose. And even having walked away and saying no to some of those offers, I met some really great people while interviewing. And we kept in touch. And there's some of the people who've said, I know we don't work together and we are not going to, but someday we will. And so it's really important
mm-hmm.
to be mindful of not burning those bridges, keeping those connections, right, open, because as mentioned prior, it's not always a terrible reflection on you. As we said, a lot of what happens is cultural fit. And it's not personal to you. I know it feels personal because it's happening to you.
It's not.
But
Mm-hmm.
it's really not so much about you. Like, it's really sometimes we're looking for a person, not just, you have the right skill sets. We know that you can do this work, but we're looking for a
Mm-hmm.
person who gel with the team in this way, right? I may have a
Mm-hmm.
team where, you know what, I need a person who is not just skilled in this way, but they're proactive because the guys in the team, they really just do the work. And I want somebody who's innovative and, really is going to add some life to this. And so I speak to you and I don't necessarily get that in the immediate. And so I'm trying to find that. So that may mean that it's a no for you, but it's really not so personal to you. And so oftentimes, if you respond inappropriately, now you just shot yourself in the foot. Now you just remove the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to really sit here and have it go forward. I literally today had to terminate a person. Um, for reasons being, not terrible reasons, but there was cause. And this
Mm-hmm.
person proceeded and, cursed and said some things about black females and et cetera. And that, just like randomly said, and that was like, noted, not
Mm-hmm.
hireable, right? Had to change that in the system.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to work here anymore. So be very mindful of the connections you're creating and how you want to be viewed. You may not like them or like what happened, but let people walk away with a feeling of you that's really good. Let them come calling you. Let them come knocking at your door and leave that space
Yep.
away.
So it says, what are some soft skills? What are some soft skills needed to be a manager? I mean, for me, one of the top soft skills to me to be a manager is one is compassion. Is compassion and understanding, being a team player, as well, because a lot of times managers tend to dictate and they won't be with you in the trenches, right? So I like a manager that is going to be in the trenches with me. You know what I'm saying? And that's not so much of a dictator, right? Somebody that leads by example. But that compassion piece for me, I think is big because you're dealing with people, and when you're in the business of people, you have to be compassionate. And I'm not saying be walked over, obviously, but and not knowing when to be stern or not knowing when to write somebody up or to to discipline somebody, but to have that understanding and compassion, to me, um, is essential for a manager, and to be available, always having that open door policy to be able to dialogue and to speak, and that you're not above that. Because many times we have managers who feel like they're above, having conversation and dialogue and an open door policy. And it's just, to me, that doesn't make for a good, I'll say leader. There are a lot of managers, but there's not many good leaders. So to me, to be a leader, you got to have compassion and understanding, and you got to be a team player and be in the trenches with your employees. So that's something to me that I always looked at, for leaders.
in the business to have. So I mean that's my 2 cents.
I will say it loudly and often and always. A manager is not a leader.
Right.
And that means
Two different things.
manager should be a leader. Manager's not always a leader.
Yep.
When I speak to my people leaders, I call them that for reasons because I'm calling on them to do just that. I tell them often there's 2 responsibilities. You manage the work, you develop people. 2 different
Yes.
things, right? And often enough, what I find is that they're so bogged into managing the work and getting the work done that they give very little thought to developing people. And that's where we get lost. I want to work and hire people that work for me and empower them to do the work, right? So I think it's important that our managers develop leadership qualities. I think it's important that they're not asking people to do anything that they wouldn't do themselves.
Yep.
I think Terrence speaks to compassion. I speak to probably the same thing, but for me, it's empathy. It's emotional intelligence. It's understanding and operating from a space that everyone is doing the best they can with what they have.
Yep.
And if I start with the idea that what you're delivering for me, you're doing the best you can, it leads me to try to understand why is it that your best doesn't feel like the best that I would require, right? So as an example, I have to ask myself a question as a manager to say, did I empower you? Did I give you all the tools that you needed? Are you an individual who needs deadlines, who needs further information? And am I providing you what you need to be successful? Because that's where leadership comes in. It really comes to ensure that I am questioning myself first before coming to you. But I do have a responsibility to hold you accountable, to show up as the best self that you can be if I'm noticing that you're not doing so. So that takes understanding, and that's where that empathy comes in, where I'm literally walking into these conversations to say, what happened here? Walk me through what happened. Share with me, what did you need that you didn't get? What can I do differently? How can I show up for you? And when I hear it and understand that, then I can hold you accountable to, I received that and I will take that. Or in fact, you may not have provided that. So here's what I require of you. Here's what I'm not seeing. And here's what I could do to help you be better, right? Because coaching shouldn't just happen when we're doing a corrective action. That should be happening through the life cycle of your employment period.
Yes.
So for a manager, your soft skill, the main one would be empathy. It's really, truly understanding your employee. First, what they need. Every person's different. And being able to flex your leadership style and your communication style. I'm a director, which means that I am not really quickly with the fuzzy. I just really want to get to the point and get it done. I don't need an entire email with a ton of information. I need the facts. I need what I need now to get it done. But I understand that not all my employees work that way. I have one in particular who will tell me the entire story. So I know that's that person. That's their style.
Yes.
So I flex to meet their style to understand what they're delivering for me. But I also share with them that this is where I'm operating from. So communication, clarity, empathy, some of the key things that you need as far as the soft skills required to manage the work and develop the people.
Perfect. And just, I know I touched on it a little bit in the first part, but when it comes to with telling your story, or I'm not sure if it's the second part, but telling your story.
Okay.
When you're in an interview, and when somebody says, "Tell me about yourself,"
yes,
that is your opportunity to truthfully tell them about yourself. Tell them about your experience. Tell them about your education, your hard skills, your soft skills, and some personal qualities.
Well,
some personal.
Let's make sure we're clear about that, right?
Some.
Highlight pieces that are not necessarily on your resume, but pieces that speak very well of you, and often speak about where you've grown, right? I don't necessarily do this so well. However, I have learned, and this is now how I do this. So this is what I got from that. Really, but you got to plan ahead. You don't just go in and just like, you don't want to sit in an interview doing that. I'm gonna probably dismissed you from that moment. So coming back to that, good point.
Right, and tell me about yourself doesn't mean, yo, I love LeBron James. You know, I love going on vacation to California. I love long romantic walks to the refrigerator. Like that's not.
I don't know that there's an interview I've been in where they've not walked away from understanding that Michael Jordan is pretty much my dad.
Yeah, I know.
Because that's
you know.
you know what it is though. I think you always want to add that personal touch in there, where that's that thing that they remember, so to speak, to a point. Like that's the she right, and so you want them to remember all the great things. But I oftentimes, because
Mhm.
that's my dad.
Yeah, tell me, but for me, tell me about yourself isn't cold for just tell me about all of your personal, like all of your personal likes and all of this stuff. Like that's not really what it's about. That's your opportunity to give me your 30-second elevator pitch about yourself. Take advantage of it.
But I
Take advantage of it.
recruiters too, though, Terrence, because I hold my recruiters really accountable in being mindful of how they ask questions and what questions they ask, all at the same time, right? Because there is a responsibility to ask for what you're looking to receive at the very same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Clear, and I've had to make clear, like it's a very broad question. Can you help point me in the direction of what you're exactly looking for? Because we have this thing where we judge people on their actions, but we judge ourselves on our intentions. So if your intention is to get particular information from me, right, but your actions suggest that you're just asking broadly, then you don't get to walk away with this idea that I didn't answer your question because I didn't give you what you wanted when you weren't clear in your ask. So I think there's that too. And I know this is not for the folks.
It's that, but also there's an assumption on the hiring managers or the recruiters actually that that when I ask you or say tell me about yourself, that you already know I don't want to hear about I love the beach or whatever the case is. Just making an example. You know what I'm saying?
Real. I've been in many interviews and that's the question. They want to know more about the person. Like, what do you do in your spare time? They want to hear a little bit more about that. So, I mean, out
of the interviews I've been on, that was about 5% of them. No, like 95% of them was nah, bro.
Every single one I've gotten asked questions, just wanting to know, well, tell me more about yourself. Like, what do you do? When do we, and I've asked that question to say, well, I'm happy to share with you. Tell me a little bit more about what you're looking to understand about me. It's definitely okay. Okay, it's required that you go in there asking questions. One, and two, there's no issue with asking for clarity. In fact, you should
absolutely
be very, very clear about what you're answering or what you're responding to, because you don't want to be held accountable for what you didn't learn and what you didn't share.
Right. And please come to interviews with questions to ask the interviewer, please. But look, truthfully speaking, we got about five minutes left to this part 2. Time flies. So if there's any kind of quick questions that you guys have that you want to ask us really quickly, if we could, answer those really fast, because 5 minutes goes by pretty quickly.
While you're doing that and come with the questions really quick, I think I've gotten this a lot, so I'm going to just respond to it here. That a lot of people say to me, I don't know what profession I want to be in, I don't know where to go, and trying to find purpose and what that looks like. Really think about what you do most for most people is really a good start. Asking qualified individuals who know you well for describing words, like say, call a person, say, give me 5 words that best describe me from your perspective. Not everybody, qualified people who know you well enough to ask that question.
Right.
If you're looking to understand your personality of how you work, there's a really great website called 16 Personalities. So the number 16 personalities, where you can do an assessment, and that really helps you understand a little bit more about yourself. So why don't you just share that broadly?
How do you keep up to date on technology outside of work?
You do that for your career development. You take courses.
Yeah.
You see things on LinkedIn. You search the internet, because you can't just simply rely on your job to have those courses on, like, a lot of big companies have, universities or whatever sites where they have learnings attached to Harvard, etc. But it's relying on you. It's your career. It's in your hands. Having a conversation with your manager is on you. If they're not having it with you, go ask for that conversation. Be bold. Be courageous in that way, as well as look to what's relevant in your particular field, your industry, and stay close to understanding what that is, what's moving. I try to stay close to the laws that are changing, the trends that are changing. So that's on you. I also aligning to particular groups that may be aligned to your career path as well. You can get a lot of information there.
Also, check out a site called General Assembly. Sometimes they have free webinars and free Zooms that just kind of tailor towards. It could be social media. It could be technology. But but I know especially during this time, you know, they've been doing like every Friday. I think that they've been doing just different conference calls and webinars on certain things on technology and in technology. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So
And
check out General Assembly.
universities do a lot of that as well. Some of the
Yep.
universities will do a lot of free courses online also. So really get yourself
Mhm.
out there. And that's also helpful in the network. LinkedIn, joining different groups on LinkedIn, you'll hear a lot about different opportunities. A lot of them are free seminars, some are a few dollars, but really
Mhm.
staying connected. Again, that network will equate to your network. You have a great
Mhm.
network, you spend less money. You have a great network, they plug you into a lot of places. You get to meet more people. So really think about being intentional about the network that you're creating around you.
Yes. Yep. So I
And
just pinned DJ
strategy.
Stretches. I just pinned that there. Um. So, CFA Joe, my boy Joe said, agreed. Make your professional development a study. Shout out to Joe. I'm gonna have him on Thursday, and we're gonna get into everything money management.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be an amazing conversation too.
Yeah.
So look, we got about less than 2 minutes, man. So I just really want to just say, you know, we started this on a late night conversation, just like, yo, you know, what can we do to kind of push the culture forward. And we decided to do this Zoom for 2 hours. We both work, and and we decided to just give this joint for free, man. And because we both care about the community, and we both care about our people. And so I just want to salute to you, Stauna. You're amazing. You're a queen. I appreciate you always for being able and available to doing things like this. I don't take it lightly, you know, so I just wanted to say salute to you. Thank you very much. You're a queen of the highest order. And I really do appreciate you. You know, I was just going to do a cheers since we're doing a sip and learn. Cheers. Cheers to you. Cheers to you. And I know that this is not going to be the last one. I know that we're going to get on a call and talk about something, and then we're going to be like, yo, we got to take it to live again and do it. I don't know what it's going to be, but I do know it's probably going to be something. So definitely cheers to you. I appreciate everybody that has stopped through here and has participated in this Conversations of the Heart, Sip and Learn edition, surrounded by career readiness. We got about 30 seconds. I appreciate you, my brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to you for the platform. Thank you, everybody, for joining.